We're here. Now this is the second episode in our smashing through agency growth barriers. And what is it we've noticed, Kate, about letting agents at certain stages? Why are we doing this? What's the reason?
So I think it's really, really great to identify which stage of agency people are in. And last episode of this, which we did on Wednesday, we talked about agents that were sort of starting out and getting to that first 100 property hurdle, which for new agents and new people starting out is a big deal, isn't it? And it's a really tough phase to be in, to push through to get there. So I think it's really important, and what we're doing at each stage of this series is identifying what that feels like, what that looks like, what challenges that can kick up, and then we're helping to obviously overcome some of those challenges and give people solutions so that they can smash through those growth barriers and get to the next phase of growth, which is obviously what everyone wants to be doing at the moment.
Absolutely. And we're really excited about this because most people think, I think when you're struggling in business, no matter what stage you're at, I think you feel like you're alone. I think you feel like I must be the only one that has these problems. I must be the only one that has this challenge. And particularly for this phase, you've got through stage one, which is like getting going, which is all excitement. And I'm going to run a business this time next year, Rodney. We're going to be millionaires. We're going to have loads of free time and we're going to spend time with our family, and all these reasons that people set up in business only to find themselves working like 15-hour days, a gazillion emails, loads of demands from landlords. It's absolutely crazy, and they're not even taking a decent wage at the end of it, and they start thinking, God, why do I bother? Now, if you manage to get through the getting started phase, the next phase is what we call the chaos phase. And it's that sort of almost like growing pains. If you think of children, it's like, they're growing at different levels. The head's bigger than the feet and all that sort of stuff. It's all like a puppy dog, with those really huge paws. It's that sort of growing phase, the second phase. And that's why it's a little bit chaotic, because you've got a business now, got something between 60 and 120 properties to manage. And so it's not just you marketing now. Now you've got real clients to serve and things to do. And what that means is you're then crazily busy, you're rushed off your feet, you're doing all the things that you promised, and no doubt you offered bespoke service, Kate, as well. Oh, you'll always get me, Mr. Landlord. I will be there for you one-to-one. You won't have to deal with anybody else. We won't pass you around like the big companies do. So you've got this bespoke service to deliver, but you also know you've got to focus on the marketing and get new clients and win new business, but you just haven't got time for that. And that's why this second phase, this second barrier, is where so many people actually get stuck. And so they get past the getting going phase, and then they get to somewhere between 60 and 120 properties, and they absolutely grind to a halt. And it's such a shame because it's not quite fully fledged yet, but it's not really a new start. It's somewhere in between, and it can be quite painful, can't it, Kate?
Yeah, it's that real sort of chicken and egg phase, I think, for me, because you've got what is a business, and it's a functioning business, and you're obviously doing well, but it's more than likely got to the point where it can no longer be just you. And we touched on in the last episode of this about the outsourcing and how powerful that can be, and how getting that sort of thing right at early on stage is really important. But you're probably at a point now where you are at capacity with whatever it is that you're doing, and you're wanting to give best service and you're wanting to take on more, but it's become chaotic, really. That's the only answer here. You can see the other side and it's quite close, but you're not quite sure how to get there. So it is a difficult phase to be in, but it is so worthwhile pushing through this stage, because that whole first bit that you've done really is the toughest bit. And where you are now, it really is, it's worth pushing through to the light at the end of the tunnel, isn't it, Sal?
It is. And one of the things we've identified, that all the people that are sitting there on 500 properties, 600 properties, 1,000 properties, they all were in this phase. I can remember it dearly myself. We have all been through this phase. It is a phase, which means it's a phase, not permanent. It's not life ending. It's not the end. It's a phase, which means you can get through it, just like that gangly teenager, and just like that little puppy with big paws, we can get through it. Now we're going to bring in a guy who knows all about puppies with big paws, because he has a baby Alsatian in his house that is so adorable but huge at the same time. And we're going to bring up Patrick, and he's going to share with us his story, because when we first met, Patrick was exactly in this chaos phase. And so I'm just going to let you talk, Patrick. What was it like for you when you were in this phase? Does it ring true? Did you feel like you're the only person in this phase? Did you know what to do? How did it feel being there?
At the time, it didn't feel that bad, actually. I didn't know any better. And now I look back and do cringe quite a lot. I think, God, did that really happen? Did I really do that? It was quite lonely, depressing, to be honest. Yeah, some days you're in quite a dark place. So I'm being quite honest about it. It wasn't always great. People shouting at you, screaming at you, staff shouting at you, landlord going bonkers at you for no reason, tenants going bonkers, landlord of the property renting your office going bonkers, trying to get everything in one place, juggling balls around. It was just chaos is probably the best way to describe it, actually. I didn't recognise it at all, to be honest. We're at the point of just jacking in. I couldn't be bothered anymore. I'd had enough. I'm lucky enough to have my own portfolio of properties, which is quite a big portfolio, so I don't need the business. And I thought I don't need the hassle. And we just literally come to the point where I really generally couldn't be bothered anymore, which is a nightmare. And my partner found a course on Facebook. Please don't cringe, say £99 be bad. And I thought, £99? My beat my paying that. She paid it. She went back, came back to the office, and it was a game changer. It literally was a game changer. It made everything just fell into place. We sat down, went through everything you told us on the 1 day course. Went to boot camp, and then we just implemented every single strategy. Sometimes I'm not.
Just going to stop you there, because let's focus on that phase. So you're in this chaos, and it is an absolute apt terminology for it, because you're almost, I think the reason why it's chaotic, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it feels like you're in the middle of everything. Nothing happens without you at this phase. Every conversation, every action, everything is you. You can't escape, can you?
Yeah. And when it goes wrong, it goes wrong, you can't get clean out, you got to clean a house. Bottom of the toilet, you got to unblock the toilet. Keys go missing, you got to find the keys. It's just constant. It's just like having a baby, but 100 of them crying all the time. And it's just constant, and it just never ends. And I mean, some big mistakes we made, and I look back now. I imagine that people doing the same thing. You're just racing to the bottom on fees. We were literally over delivering, over promising, often failing to deliver what we promised. But what we promised to deliver was never in the package. It was never financially viable for us. So you end up having to do it anyway, and you just become almost like a PA to every landlord.
So let's just talk about that for a second. So sorry, Kate. So one of the 5 things I wanted to share about this phase is fees, and what so many people do when they start up, when they get going, is they find out what everyone else is doing on the market, and then they sort of copy it, but slightly better, a bit cheaper, or they're going to do a little bit more, a little bit different. Is that what you did, Patrick? Is that ring true with you?
We've gone down and down and down. After the training, we looked back at the fees and just thought, God, we're not making any money. We're running at a loss. Our portfolio was probably carrying us more than we realised at the time. And we were just doing everything for nothing. And I'm not saying you can charge everything you've got to balance it. You've got to get paid for what you're doing. I mean, today I had a not a disgruntled customer, but they wanted me to go out and do a full ALA valuation of the property for the buy to let, and put on their paper, my ALA number. So that's fine, but there's a fee. What for? Well, because why should I do it? And there are consequences to the action of me getting it wrong for a start. Well, I'm not paying it. Well, don't then. It really isn't my problem. It literally is, buy, and they come back and say, well, we'll pay it. Well, okay, that's fine. We'll discount it off your first let fee. I'll go manage it ourselves. Well, that's your choice. And then you go back into that and you explain to them you can manage yourself if you are absolutely barking mad, and these are the reasons for it. But before, we'd have got, oh, yeah, any chance, grateful to go out and see someone. And almost, it sounds really weird. I'm not quite past the stage yet, Sally, so I do apologise. Being guilty for being a letting agent, because it's almost like being just dirty. I was an engineer for 20 odd years, and I'm proud of that. I think, well, now I manage 1,000 properties. That's something to be proud of. And yet people still, people do talk down to you, but that's their problem, not yours. And it's recognising it is their problem and not your problem.
Very valid point, actually. And I think as an industry, I think we've got a lot of work to do really on pride and recognition. And I'm hoping that we're going off piste here, but I'm hoping with the regulation of the industry that will change. 100%. But let's focus on these fees for a second. So, you've got so many people that have copy and pasted what other people are doing. And then when they get down the road, they realize it doesn't work. And I think this is an industrial size level of challenges, because the reason for that is obviously 30 years ago, when this fee structure arrived of let only, fully managed, maybe rent collection, what we had to do for our money was like signed a tenancy agreement with Min. Now, 20 years later, there's like 170 pieces of legislation, 17 hours of work, and yet we're charging the same. And in fact, in many cases, we're charging less. Yeah. So it is a real big issue. And I think a lot of people that have done that, are finding these problems further down. So top tip number one is restructure your fees. Have a look at what the work is that you're actually doing. Take a note out of Patrick's book. Look at what you're actually doing for your money. If it takes you 17 hours to do something, let me just say to you, you cannot charge 50 quid for that, because that is well below the minimum wage. That means you certainly can't pay staff for it, and you can't afford to pay yourself to do it either. So really start to quantify the time you're taking to deliver the service versus the charges that you're putting out there. And I think that for you, Patrick, was one of the number one things that you really started to change, wasn't it?
100%. And also we started to recognise and value the consequence of our actions. So, for example, going back to the doing an evaluation, if you get it wrong and there's a default on the payment of the mortgage, the lender can come back and say, well, actually, Mr. Sullivan, you said it was worth this much money, and we're now going to take your tax money. You think, well, Christ, that was free of charge. What would you bother doing that for? And it's about that. I mean, top tip number one for me, which I find really funny, you are going to cut and paste your competitors' prices. Don't put in MailChimp with their name in by accident, which was our competitors did recently. That was quite funny. So almost like free advertising that was, so that was good. But yeah, we cut and paste. We literally copied everyone else's at the time, and we just literally changed the words around. And then you look back and you just cringe. And also, when I go out on valuations quite a lot, landlords will purposely stack you up on the same time. They can't now, but pre-COVID they would. And I still go in a shirt, and my best shorts, winter shorts if it's winter, summer shorts if it's summer, in my Land Rover or my van. And you think, well, actually, because I'm not wearing a suit with a silly haircut, I'm actually just as good, if not better, than the 12-year-old you're talking to. And it's understanding your own true value, what you can charge for your time. And I think it takes a long time to appreciate that and understand it. I think part of AR I found is that if you stand up, I'm not an alcoholic, but if you went to an alcoholic meeting, you all stand up saying, good morning, Bob. And AR, we did the original boot camps. You can stand up and say who you are. And I thought, God, that's just me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And you realize, actually, we're all the same people, all rated to the bottom, giving everything free, and all skilled. So
that for me was the bit that stood out for me at the beginning when you said, Patrick, you said that you didn't know any different. So this phase is synonymous of people, in it working for very little money kind of thing, chaotic, but not knowing any different, because as you say, can be quite isolating and quite lonely. And all you've got is when you set up, you kind of look left and look right and copied and pasted and, did what everyone else was doing. And so what happens is the whole kind of area and the whole industry and all these people working at the same time, the same level and the same phase are always thinking that this is how it is and that it can never be any other way. And you kind of, you get so ingrained in that, don't you? Like you said, that to the point of, I think I'm just going to jack it in because this is just not what you thought it would be, B, very profitable, or B, very fun, really, which is just not a good place to be in.
One of the keys there for Patrick and for a lot of people actually has been over the last couple of years is actually being part of that community, isn't it? And pulling people together. I know you talked about the 97 quid tenant fee ban course that we were running back in the day, but really it was about standing in that room with all those other agents and realizing same problem, and putting all of that together, which is why we're actually running an event in a few weeks called ARX Mastery, the little ticker tape at the bottom of the thing that you can see there. Come and have a look. I mean, literally we charge 149 or 147 pound for that, and it's going to be 3 days of absolute full-on coaching on how to get through these barriers, grow your business, and actually take it to the next level. I mean, Patrick, time again, would you pay 147 quid for 3 days coaching how to grow your business?
We paid you considerably more, and you made considerably more out of it. So people, bear with me. People moan about mentoring, and they moan about people paying what they're getting, and it wasn't good enough, and they didn't make money. But actually, if you just took on board the learning points you were given, then maybe it'd work, and it worked for us. And we're now short of 1,000 properties, and that's a massive change from where we were a few years ago. We've got, I now work 10 till 3 because of COVID. I work less if I could, but I think the thing I would say to people is that I'd like to think we all can recognise a false passport. We can all recognise a cannabis factory. We can all recognise someone's going to grow a cannabis factory, but we don't recognise in our business you're working 8 in the morning, if not earlier, till 8 at night. at night time you're doing inspection, exits, you're cleaning houses, you're doing paperwork, you're doing cleaning the office, you're a relate officer for marriage counselling for the staff, the tenants, the landlords, and these are little triggers. If you don't recognise them, you will literally drive yourself into an early grave, and you don't recognise it at all. And so when you sort of meet people, which we did for AR, you think, well, actually, that's me. Why am I working until 9 o'clock at night? We not say regularly. There were many nights at 10 o'clock. We're still working. You had to get
Which brings me to the second point, because one of the second challenges of the chaos phase, number one, is not charging enough. Number two, you've already mentioned it already, over delivering. And what we're talking about here is just doing too much for free. You're trying to be so helpful. You're trying to do so much. You've just got to pull that back. But one of the challenges people have is, but everyone else does that, and that's what's expected of me. I've got to do that. What would you say to that, Patrick? Come on.
Over delivering is a massive problem. First of all, you set the bar far too high, and when you realise you can't deliver it, and you step back to what you should be delivering, everyone moans at you. So that's a big issue. Number two, are they really doing it? If you've got a proper compliant agency, you cannot do it for the money. So when people moan to us, "Oh, you charge too much," fine. Down the road, go to cross the road, know who they are. Probably watching this now. Feel free, jog on, because I know what it costs to run a proper agency. Be completely compliant. Now, we had an R inspection before COVID, a year ago now, and that was horrific. God Almighty, they just couldn't feel fine for your code, and we came out perfect. You think, well, that's just because we've got the process in place. We deliver proper policies, and when it goes wrong, we put hands up. We don't lie, we don't cheat. We've got enough staff to justify it. And you can see your competitors. You walk down the street, you think, you've got 2 members of staff. How the hell do you manage more than 100 properties with 2 members of staff? It's impossible. We have 15, 16 staff now, and that's only because we automate so much as well. Otherwise, you couldn't do that. I think over delivering is a massive issue. And the problem over delivering is you can't keep doing it. It's unsustainable. And when you fall back, then you get absolutely battered and criticised by everyone under the sun. And the landlords forget that you were charging 5%.
It's making that decision as to whether you're just going to be an overworked, underpaid, stressed out letting agent that's not going to be able to service anybody properly or correctly because you haven't got the time, the energy, the inclination. You just got no thought of time at all. And as a human being, you're not being, rewarded. Or are you going to be a business person? And, the analogy I always use is you go to your accountant and say, "Oh, the government said I've got to do this extra form. Will you do it for me for free, please?" Their answer will be no. Go to a solicitor and say, "Oh, I'm going for divorce. Would you do this for me free? I've used your fee." No, they're not going to do it. You wouldn't even go into McDonald's and say, "I've been a loyal customer for the last 20 years. Can I have some free chips?" No. And yet they believe that they can ask letting agents the same thing. And I think it's just making that decision that I am a business, and therefore, I need to charge for everything that I do. And the thing that I sell, this is the number one nugget, guys, write this down if you're listening, to take this away. The number one thing to remember is what you sell is time. That is what you sell. So if you waste time, as Patrick's just saying, running around doing this, doing that, doing the other, all that sort of stuff, then you are actually wasting your commodity. So you wouldn't, if you were selling, a supermarket wouldn't let you walk out with a can of beans that probably cost them 9p, but you will waste 2, 3, 4 hours doing a favour for a landlord, waiting for the gas man to arrive, for example, or getting keys cut or any of those things. And that is probably worth £150 worth of your time. So really, really valuable nuggets there. Kate, would you agree?
Yeah, and then this leads back to the chicken and egg thing again, because you cannot sustain this on your own. And if you are looking to grow, there is only so much time that you've got in a day. And if you are massively over delivering, like Patrick says, and your service levels are so high that you're doing so much for free, you're not making profit and you haven't got time to grow. And if you did grow, then you don't have time to do it. So it's real like chicken and egg here. What do we do? So if you are looking to scale up your business and be bigger and be better, you are going to have to address this, because it's not saying you're not giving bad service. It's just saying that you're giving good service, but charging accordingly for it.
Absolutely. You can't juggle 200 eggs in one go.
No, exactly.
Because you will drop one egg.
Now, we're going to be sharing loads of techniques on how to break through these barriers at ARX Mastery. So guys, if you're watching, make sure you've grabbed your ticket. It's going to be 3 days of absolute awesomeness. But the next point I want to bring up is actually one of the big challenges that you have, Patrick. And I'm just going to ask you, I actually don't know if this was a thing for you. I'm guessing it was, and I'm putting myself out there at the moment. So my thought is, one of the big challenges we've noticed is that, you get past the getting going phase, marketing, it slows down, and all of a sudden you've got all these properties to manage. And what tends to happen in this chaos phase around 60 to 120 properties is that the marketing just stops because you're so damn busy. You just haven't got time to think about the marketing. And because you haven't, the two things at play here is you're not making enough money, you're spending too much time. So you're this busy, crazy person running around like 14, 15, 16, 18 hours a day, whatever it is. Marketing just gets completely off the shelf. And also there's a lack of confidence as well, because this crazy world that you're living in, it's like, I don't really feel confident in getting out there. There's a few things at play. Marketing tends to fall off in this chaos phase, which is why we end up in this just letting the properties that come available, and we don't really grow, and we end up stuck, and which is why it's a barrier. Does that sound true for you, Patrick? Is that thing that you did? Did you find the marketing slowed down at this point when you're in that crazy phase?
I think slow down is probably ambitious. It just stops really.
Yeah.
And you forget to do it because you are the person doing it. And that's still quite the case now. But we have time programmed the day for marketing. We have scheduled for it. It's pre-programmed. We do a lot of ad hoc stuff, but it's still we have a plan throughout the whole year for it. The thing we picked up from you, Sally, was to actually write down what you're going to do for. And example, Easter's every year. You have Christmas every year. You have bonfire night every year that happen. So there's no excuse to go on November 4th. Oh my god, it's bonfire night. So you should have planned that month in advance, and you can repurpose it the year after and year after. And if you don't do it, it's like you go to Cornwall or Wales, you find a little perfect little hotel, absolutely amazing. You think, well, why doesn't they know about it? Because no one told anyone else about it. So you don't tell people how good you are. How do they know how good you are? And you can't just say, I'm brilliant. You've got to prove it. But you don't do anything, you've done nothing, no one will ever know. You can't say, well, no one knows I'm brilliant because I'm not telling people. Well, what did you expect? So you need to open the windows to get the light to shine. But
if you say to someone who's in that crazy space working 15, 16, 18 hours a day, you need to start marketing, they just go, like, when? And that's the thing. You've got to free that time up first. It's never going to happen, is it?
You need to outsource or you need to employ staff. And
you can. They will say they haven't got the money and they haven't got the time, so they can't employ staff and they can't outsource. So the first thing has to be sorting your fees out, sorting your service levels, making you're charging for your time, reducing the amount of favors and free stuff you're doing, then focus on the marketing, whether that be outsourcing, whether that be staff, whether that be doing yourself. It doesn't really matter, but it's got to be the third thing on the list, I think, because if you try and do that first, in my experience, people just don't do it.
If you look at it's simple maths. If you charge the right fees and you lose some landlords, but you make the same amount of money, you're doing less work. So the math is simple. So if you're doing less work, it means you do more marketing. More marketing means you get more good customers, and you get customers you actually want to talk to. And that's something we can't say I took joy out of it. I probably did a bit. The ability to say, actually, Mr. Landlord, we don't like you. You're not the sort of person we want to deal with. You're not compliant. You're constantly paying the bum, and you pay us nothing. So adios. Have a good one. And spend time with good landlords. So they will pay you. They will. I remember we put our fees up. The one big thing, I had 2 phone calls, and I thought, oh God, these two are going to rip into me. And they both said, really glad to put your fees up. Well deserved what you increased to. Surprised it took so long. And I was absolutely gobsmacked.
And you were waiting for the barrage of moans to come at you.
I don't think we lost one landlord with our fee increase. Not one. But equally, we didn't just say, adios, 30% up, there you go. We explained to them why we're doing it. And again, with fees, if you actually write down what you're doing, the example I use with staff is a tellet board. What does it cost? £15 per. Well, actually, it costs more than that. So member staff's going to order it, then they're going to arrange it. It goes up, it comes down, you're going to reorder it, and then got to do a viewing, got to get in the car, drive to the viewing, do the viewing, come back, pay the insurance, pay the staff. So you're looking around £75 for the first board and first viewing minimum. So only if you do 10 viewings, you just spend maybe £1,000 to make £400. The maths isn't that hard to work out, is it? And when you start allocating time and effort against pounds, you realise actually I am just literally a hamster in a wheel, go round and round and round.
So let's just talk about that for a second, because that's the fourth thing on my point, actually, is because of lack of money, there's not enough staff or there's not enough outsourcing going on. And what people tend to do is they try to do everything themselves to save money. And so I'll give an example. One of our first franchisees, I remember saying to me, Sally, I'm going to do all these inventories and all these inspections. I'm going to do them myself. And she was Mrs. Attention to Detail. And I can remember going on this really long inventory, 7 hours it took her to this inventory to go there and do it, this big, massive house, fully furnished, write it all down, and then check it and get 7 hours. I said, well, why didn't you get someone else to do that? There was somebody in the town that could do it for £40 at the time. She goes, well, I'd rather save that money. And it was like 7 hours. I mean, what could you do with 7 hours? And this is the thing. It's not like what it costs me. They think it doesn't cost them, but there is an equitable cost, because you take a wage and it costs you just for this office to be open, and your premises and your shop and your car and all those sort of things. And there's a cost of getting there and whatever. There is a cost, but also as well, there is the opportunity loss of not doing the things that you could do in those 7 hours. And, this girl was amazing at marketing and hitting the phones and stuff. That's 7 hours of prospecting loss. I mean, I don't need to ask you, Patrick, but, how much money would you make in 7 hours? You could do loads. Think of those contracts you could get, and opportunities, and trying to save 40 quid. Why do people do that? It's crazy, but it happens in this phase.
Because they don't know better. Because they think that's acceptable, and they think it's normal. It's almost like a cult. You begin believing your own negativity, and you believe your own lack of worth, and you're just grateful you saved £40. I mean, it's almost like a confessional. This is really. If you do look back and you do cringe, and you think, God, how do we ever get through this? And you will get through it, but you need to understand you're wrong. And go back to earlier, you just don't know any better. So you don't know you're doing it wrong, and you think everyone. That's another thing I know as well with AR. Is you think everyone's doing better than you, and everyone's like, "Oh, one of my competitors got a brand new Mercedes." You think, "Well, I know how much money you earn. I'm trying to buy you, so I know how much money in your bank quite easily. So okay, I was on lease, not in your car." And you think, but they're portraying an image. But people actually say, "Well, actually, we are an agent, and we're absolutely skint." People will be a lot more sort of understanding. I think you've got to admit to yourself you're skint, and why are you skint? You're skint because you're working stupid hours. You're not doing any marketing. You're not actually doing any work, but any real benefit, and you are literally letting down people. And there's also human consequence as well, because when you get it wrong, and someone gets hurt, then there's a massive consequence. And it does happen. We're quite a big agency now, so people have unfortunately lost their lives in our properties. It happens. If you imagine, people always die in properties. They die there more than anywhere else. And if you're running a shoestring and managing 2 or 300 properties with just one person, or 1.5 person, or one person, a PA, it's going to happen. You are going to hit a massive block, and God help you, you've got it all wrong, and you can't get it right unless you put in the processes and spend the time to get it right.
One of the reasons I started Agent Rainmaker in 2016 was an absolute frustration. Going back to the point where you say people don't tell you the truth and don't tell you where they're really at. One of the big frustrations for me was that letting agents weren't talking. Even though there are communities out there, very large communities of letting agents that have regular meetings, you know as well as I do, Patrick, you go to those meetings, you go, how's things? Oh, brilliant. Fantastic, great.
Business is amazing.
And you'd see them, they'd all send their own little groups, and they wouldn't communicate or network with each other or anything like that. It was so frustrating. I thought, we have to lift the veil, whatever the word is here. We have to start talking to each other and start to realize that actually we're all in the same pickle. And there are things that we can do and start changing those beliefs and changing those mindsets. And again, that's why we're running this event, ARX Mastery, next month, because to bring the community back together again. We've just been through one of the most challenging times in our history, and it's about bringing the community together. Now, I believe that we offer at Agent Rainmaker the best networking in the industry. People actually will stand and tell you the truth, Patrick. And I think that's really quite unique about our events. They'll stand there and go, oh, it's bloody tough at the moment. I tell you, I'm really struggling with this. And they'll even help you as well. And I think that's really quite unique, don't you?
Yeah. I did this work for a friend recently, an agent, got home, found a bottle of whiskey at home. He had some in my house. And I thought it was really nice to do that. I didn't have to. And people, it's just nice to know you're not on your own, because you are on your own a lot. I don't think we'll ever get past the point where local competitors help each other. I think there's always going to be levels snakes in the grass, but they are, because it's such a national organisation. You can talk to someone in Leicester for me, or Scotland, and there's no competition, so there's no sort of need to be defensive. And it is sometimes quite nice to say to people, actually, we're making pigs ear this. What do you think? And sometimes someone will say, well, actually try this. You think, okay, we'll try that. And if nothing else, you can just try the ideas, because although we deliver the same product in theory, every market area is different. So we've got, for example, Coventry, Rugby, and Solihull are 12 miles apart each. They are black and white to each other, completely different marketplace. Yeah, there's only 24 miles from one to the second to the third. So that's the ability with AI. You can share ideas and share ideas to grow, and also sometimes just rant at someone else about what's going wrong, and they'll say, "Yeah, I know that as well."
Have a good old moan. And that's what we're looking at doing at ARX Mastery, actually, having lots of networking again and getting people together in the community. And it's been a long time. We need that. So absolutely, I think that's really important, which brings me on to my next point, really, which is about bringing staff in. Now, at this chaos phase, a lot of people really struggle with bringing staff in. Similar reason, I guess, to the reason they're doing the inventories themselves and everything else themselves to save cost. They believe they can't afford to have staff. And my mindset is, and what we've found with talking to people, is that this is because they believe they can't afford to bring staff in because they're looking at the bottom line, looking at the cost. But more importantly, they believe that because they believe it's cheaper for them to do it themselves. And they believe that because they don't know what they should do if they weren't doing that. Let me just go into that a little bit deeper. So if I'm not doing the inventories and the keys and the contracts, the maintenance, stuff like that, well, they don't have any time because they're working 15, 16, 17 hours to 18 hours a day to figure out what would I do with my time if I wasn't doing that. But when you actually give people, and I'm thinking of Tom here in the AR community, and I know you've done exactly this as well, people become, when you get free of that thing, you find out there's so much you can do, like prospecting, joint ventures, acquisitions, sourcing other companies, growing the business, focusing on legislation, training, compliance, staff recruitment, all those things. But you're never going to get there if you're doing the inventories and the keys and stuff like that. I mean, does that ring true with you too, Patrick, as about when you were that phase?
100%. And that phase reoccurs later on. So we've just now took on a PA for me. And that PA costs us about 22 grand a year, and 22 grand a year. So the way we read into it is I could have my 40 hours a week back and then deploy my 40 hours another way. Can I get 20 landlords? Absolutely not all. So that investment, and it's not that I've got to pay the £20,000 up front. It's paid monthly and monthly and monthly. So
As you go.
so much more time. It is, yeah. And another analogy I use with landlords about leverage and how to why you shouldn't self-manage is I can fix a Range Rover, I can fix a Land Rover, I'm quite good at it, it's my job, I'm an engineer, but it'll take me longer and I won't do it as well, or I'm going to spend the time, I can pay someone else to fix it for me properly, and I'll spend my time doing what I'm good at, which is being an estate agent, and a landlord, and doing JVs, on fine properties, or I can go back and start fixing toilets, pushing floors, and doing decorating, which I used to do as well. It's quite shocking.
It also sounds crazy when you look back at it. It's just crazy.
The problem is people, I think, don't have enough, belief in their own abilities, and that they are comfortable doing those lower level jobs that they've been doing for so long, especially in the startup, and they feel very busy, and they're doing all of these, viewings, inspections, accounts, everything, all these little bits and pieces. But it's like Sally says, if that's taken away by a staff member or an outsourced worker or something like that, then there's that sort of,
the voice.
What is it your husband says, Sally? We see who, when the tide goes out, you see who's been swimming naked. It's that kind of thing,
Yeah.
because now it's on you to do that. But you've got to remember that you started this business in the first place. You had that drive and that hunger and that, that entrepreneurship to do it. It's just pushing through that next belief in yourself that, as Patrick quite rightly says, if you can't make that, 20 grand a year back by doing what you could be doing with that extra 40 hours a week, then, of course you can. Of course you can. And probably 3 or 4 times that.
3 or 4 times, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just doing a quick calculation. People understand what is our worth. So if you manage 150 properties times £150,000, that's the asset value you manage. And also you think, well, actually, that's a lot of money I manage. You then look at how many 150 properties times, say, £75 per month, which is including your fee times your rent. That's your bankroll. You think, actually, that's a shed load of money. And yet, I think it's fair to go and clean a toilet. Well, actually, clean toilets isn't a problem. My mum was a cleaner, so I've got a problem cleaning toilets. But I can do a lot more things with my time than run around like an idiot and fix everything. And it just, it is cringeworthy. We still do it sometimes. Don't get me wrong; it's not perfect, but yeah, it is
Nobody
cringy
is.
at times. But we
So,
did manage a lot of money.
The reason you're here, Patrick, is because you smashed through this barrier. And I know, you went through all the challenges like we all do at all these different phases. And guys, in the comments, let us know if you've been through this. Does this ring true? Have you seen people in this position? Is this you right now? Where are you at? What's your big challenge? Let us know. It helps us. It helps with the conversation if we know how you're feeling as well. But the reason you're here, Patrick, is because I absolutely obliterated this barrier and smashed through it and made the changes that you need to make. And just give us an idea of some of the things that you spent your time on once you freed yourself of the toilets and everything else that you were doing.
I sat in boot camp and I worked with my competitors. I sat in boot camp, went for what our costs. I literally did it all in boot camp every day because we were there the 12-hour days. And every night I got back, did all our email with my staff, and we relentlessly targeted every opportunity we could do. We haven't done all of it. Sometimes we switch things on, sometimes we switch things off, depends. But we just didn't stop, and we go back to it and we go back to it. So we had a chat last week, and after that chat last week, I emailed staff literally straight away saying, fees, we need to walk up again. Just going to look at the fees, to understand what we're doing, are we making enough money, what can we do to maximise money, and deliver extra work. So, and it's about, I love it. I love being a estate agent, and I never did. I used to be embarrassing what I did for a living. Well, now I think, well, actually, I manage millions and millions of pounds of properties. In fact, I manage hundreds of millions of pounds of properties. That's pretty impressive, really, if you think about it. But it's all because we took the effort, and we listened to you, really. We paid you. You told us. We did it. It seems really simple. And people moan, well, it didn't work for me. Well, did you do it? Well, no. Did you put your fees up? No. So you didn't put your fees up. How do you think it's going to change? Well, I didn't think we could. Are you charging inventories? No. Still do that. We still do that. It's like a giraffe. We're looking at a giraffe system soon for work. But for let onlys, which we don't do very often, we do sometimes. If we do, they will be charged upfront the full fee or whistle for it. Because why should we pay for technology, pay for all our effort and all our marketing, then say, oh, let myself, oh, great. And then that's another one. Sorry, I've got to say, let only. You can spend literally 40 hours of work on let only. Then for you go and do a viewing, put the key in the door, and there's someone living there. You think, FFS. What? How many times have you gone to a house and you think, really? They've moved in. No, who are you, mate? I'm your agent. Sorry. Bye. And you think like, oh yeah, I let it last week. Thanks for that.
Yeah, awful.
If you charge them though up front, guess what? They'll call you to say something else.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So you've gone from around 100 or so properties in the chaos phase. Where are you now, Patrick? What are you at?
Just short 1,000.
Wow.
1,000 properties under management. Yay! Well done, Patrick. Well done. Or a virtual round of applause as we do. That is what you call smashing the barriers, Patrick. Well done. That's absolutely amazing. How do you feel now? Do you feel different to where you were before?
Yeah.
Will Royce, you can do anything? What's your mindset?
I love my job. I love my career. I'm proud of what I do. I'm proud of what we deliver. Because we're talking about this, we do manage 1,000 properties. If you ignore lettings, ignore sales, you don't do another let, another sale during COVID. Those 1,000 properties or homes all need gas saves, EICRs, compliance, Habitation Act. It all keeps going. So that's frustrating me a bit at the moment with where we are. But it's great. I really, and I do generally enjoy it. So we do mentoring now. We talk to people, and people respect you more, which is quite nice. And they turn to you for advice, which is good. Where before we didn't value our advice, we didn't think people would care. So. And it's nice to get emails from landlords. You walk in every week. There's flowers, there's wine, there's chocolates for the staff, and you think that's a big change from where we were just getting grief all the time in a little tiny office. We could hardly afford. You couldn't afford the rent very often. Never missed the rent, but every month we were like, oh god, the rent's coming in. Got to pay this, got to pay that. But now still look at the figures, but it's not as terrifying as it was before.
Wow, amazing. The fifth point on my list is basically low profit. And that's one of the challenges of people in the chaos phase. And there's two ways to increase your profit. Number one, increase your revenue. And number two, reduce your workload. And I think we've already covered off exactly how to do that in the last few sections. And just remind you guys, ARX Mastery is the event we are running in March. It's going to be 3 days of absolute pure gold on how to do so many different things, right from how to increase the revenue, how to reduce your workload, how to actually get the A player team on board, how to actually look at how you can acquire other portfolios. So many different things we're going to be coaching on those 3 days. So absolute pure gold. But more importantly, it's about motivation. It's about mindset. It's about fun. Patrick, what are our events like? Agent Rainmaker Live, what's it like?
Brilliant. Got to say, I missed last year because I was away working, year before last. But yeah, good about this year. Looking forward to ARX. And if you've done bootcamp before, just do it again. Because I remember sitting there thinking, so why would you do it twice for us? It should really. But now you realise, well, actually, by doing it a second time and a third time, it gives you forget things, you miss things, it gives you more energy. And you get to spend time with people who are positive, and they make you think, actually, I enjoy my career and I'm good at this. I'm good at this job. Why shouldn't we all be proud of it? And it's great fun. Shame we can't do it in person, but still looking forward to it.
It will be great. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us here. Thank you, everybody watching on wherever you're watching us here today. And even if you're watching us on the replays, thank you so much as well. Patrick, are you available if people want to reach out to you? Are you available?
Of course, yeah. Can I say something as well? Generally grateful, Sally and Kate, for all you've done. This isn't a plug for you at all. We would have sold up a long time ago and done something completely different. And I remember talking to you about aspirations. We're moving to Ireland soon. We bought a camper van. Yaz said I can't buy a tank and work on the tank bit. I think she's being a bit obnoxious about me buying a tank. I think everyone needs a tank. But they're things we could never done before. I remember talking about I love diving. I've never done so much diving since my first weekend. I mean, before COVID, I think 10 whole days was my most in 1 year. And I remember being, I will say, I remember being in the Maldives working and diving, thinking, this is fab. How can you actually? People saying to me, "What are you doing? I'm working. What for? It's been on holiday." Yeah, but I've had 6 holidays this year. I need to work, and actually, I want to work. I enjoy working, and it's not that bad actually when you go and diving with sharks, then working with sharks during the day. So, thank you very much. Do appreciate it.
Well, I'm personally very jealous because I love diving. Haven't been for far too long, and I love your pictures that you send. These amazing. Not everything like jellyfish and all sorts. I'm like, oh, let me in the water.
If you are working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, you can't go on holiday, and you can't trust you can't train your systems and processes and train your staff to reflect who you are, and you don't invest in key personnel. And I mean, we made one of our staff a director straight after boot camp, and what a difference! She's been absolutely brilliant. She plays a major role in the company now. We can't say what we've done for her, but she's great. But we would never have done that before. We would never have trusted someone with our company to the point where we can look to step back in a few years' time and retire potentially properly. But yeah, only because we took what you told us to do, adapted some of it, changed a bit of it, but we made it. We did something. I think that's the key. Just do something.
And you're going to be Agent Rainmaker Mastery and helping us to inspire hundreds of other people to do the same journey as well, hopefully.
A few dogs jumping across it a few times, and my daughter's
just don't drive the tank through the studio. That wouldn't be
tank's important. I mean, might set the wrong image for letting it.
Guys, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you all soon. Don't forget to click the link and go and see us at ARX Mastery in a few weeks' time. You will love it, I promise. All right, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patrick. Bye.